Now, this is a really complicated topic we're tackling today, and the title is, let's have a look. I've got my notes up here, and I've got Jessica over here who's talking to me and letting me know here's what today is all about. It's a glimpse into title insurance. And for me, this is my favorite topic. And it's my favorite topic. It's complicated, and it's difficult, and it's challenging. But once you get a certain threshold of information and knowledge and understanding, the amount of value that you can now offer your clients on the buying side is absolutely unbelievable. I don't think there's any other single topic that can elevate you to that status of top realtor than this one. Now, we're not going to cover it all today. Obviously, that's impossible. But what we are going to do is give you a glimpse into it. So, as you know, as we've spoken about before, this is just a snippet of what you get in the BoundaryWise Academy. Guys, you got to sign up for this. We've had 400 or 500 people every week sign up for these free snippets. If this is of value, you got to get over to the Academy, register, use the discount code, get through it. Nathan, who's on board today, coming back today, he signed up on a Friday afternoon. By Sunday, he graduated and had the CBW professional designation. I cannot stress to you enough how much value you will then drive with your clients, for your clients, as we come out of this situation. So you're going to have questions, I'm sure, as we've done in previous weeks. Add your questions to the chat, and what we'll do is we'll answer them at the end. Any that we don't get to, we will do a separate video to answer, and we'll share that with you. Okay, so that seems to have worked quite well in the past, I think, right? Please don't record this. That's another request I have of you. If you're happy just to watch this and enjoy it, we'll send out the video afterwards that you can watch again if you want, but I ask you to not record this for your own use and share it, okay? So if you're willing to abide by that, fantastic. If you're not, I ask you just to leave if you don't mind. I know you're okay with that. So here's the question today. The question that we're going to try and answer, and I promise you that you will come out of this with more questions than you've started. And that's the goal of this today, okay? So the question today is, my lawyer doesn't, or the lawyer in the deal doesn't want to see a survey. Why? Why doesn't the lawyer want to see a survey in the real estate deal? It's an interesting one, right? And we've all heard this, we've all seen this, and we've all heard different versions of why and what's going on. And there's a lot of gray area here. But what this really, really speaks to is how important it is for you to understand title insurance far more than you probably already do. So before I start though, I need to make sure that every single one of you has heard something important from me that I want you to take on as well. And that is that we at the BoundaryWise Academy and at Protect Your Boundaries, we know that title insurance is an exceptional product. It is a fantastic product out there, a great insurance product that protects lenders and lawyers and homeowners in such an amazing value way. The coverage is phenomenal. The value is incredible. It is a phenomenal product. And the title insurers who back that up and who support and who handle claims, they're all incredible people who do phenomenal work and really lean into helping people with their coverage. That is an important thing. Diane, hello from Canada. Hello, Diane. How you doing? So that's an important point. The other thing that I want you to take home out of this is that real estate lawyers are not trying to be nefarious or lazy or any of those other things that they sometimes get accused of when it comes to this whole conversation around title insurance. They are simply doing their job, and they do a great job. We as surveyors, Protect Your Boundaries, we're a survey firm. And we know what happened to our industry when title insurance came in. We basically got tossed out of the real estate transaction. Lawyers, some might say, didn't have that benefit. They had to stay in the real estate transaction, but their industry and their job changed dramatically, and we're going to talk about that. So please, as we go through this, you may find that I get excited. This is live, right? I may get excited now. I may say some things that may sound like I'm dissing title insurance or dissing real estate lawyers. Nothing could be further from the truth. So please take that as we go through that. And if I do make the mistake of sounding that way, please know that I don't mean that. We actually have an incredible amount of respect for real estate lawyers and the title insurers. And we work with both as much as we work with you. So that was the caveat. Let's get started, okay? So the simple answer to the question of why doesn't the lawyer want to see a survey plan? The simple answer is this. It's because some boundary and title issues that a survey might reveal are not covered by title insurance if you knew about them before closing. Simple as that. If you know about something that would have been covered by title insurance prior to closing, then that item, that defect, that issue will now no longer be covered by title insurance. It's that simple. All your lawyer is trying to do, all the lawyer is trying to do is protect the title insurance policy, protect the integrity of the title insurance policy so that your client, when they move in, if something comes up and happens that would be covered by title insurance, that is covered by the policy, that they are free and clear with no encumbrances to be able to make that claim. So that's what they're doing. That's their job. That's what they're trying to do, and that's what they do a really good job. So when the lawyer says, I don't want to see a survey plan, what they're saying is, listen, at this point of the deal, if I see that survey plan and there's an issue on it, I have to document that and let the title insurer know. And if your client then moves into this property, because they bought it, they're going to move into the property, and this issue comes up, the fact that you knew about it beforehand, whether it's the client or you as the buying agent knew about it, it's likely to no longer be covered. That's what the lawyer is trying to do, and that is why it is such an important aspect to know about in the conversation and in the discussion. So let's get into this. So the one thing that we find is that, unfortunately, it's not us in there with the lawyer, it's your client, right? Your client's in there at closing with the lawyer. I just have to scroll my notes here, forgive me. If I didn't make notes, this would last a heck of a lot longer than it's going to last. Okay, so it's not you in that closing meeting with the lawyer, it's your client. And many lawyers, most lawyers, fantastic professionals, have great discussions with their clients. And when their client, they sit there with the stack of documents that need to be signed, and they might have had conversations with their lawyer prior to closing about title insurance, what it covers, what it doesn't cover, and some of the issues. Those situations are fairly rare, I think. Many lawyers, most lawyers will see their client at that closing event, and there'll be a stack of documents that need to be signed. The moving truck is outside with all the client's things in there, and with all their possessions, and the lawyer just wants to get the client out with the keys, everything closed, so they can move on. So the lawyer says, sign this, sign this, sign. Eventually, the title insurance policy comes up. Now, your client likely has never even heard of title insurance, let alone know what it is. So they'll say, what is this? What is this policy I'm signing? What is this thing I'm signing? And the lawyer is going to say, it's title insurance. Now, many lawyers will say it covers a range of defects and things that could happen after the fact, that it's an insurance policy that covers that sort of thing for you. And the client might say, well, what are those things? And the lawyer will probably say, look, take the policy home, read it, but you got to sign this because the lender demands it. The lender will not release the funds until this is in place. Okay, it gets signed. Now, some lawyers will say it covers everything. That is absolutely and categorically untrue. It does not cover everything. Can you imagine if somebody said to you, your house insurance covers everything? Or your car insurance covers everything? So you buy groceries and you leave them on the back seat in the midday sun in the summer and they all go rotten. Does your car insurance cover that? Of course not. It doesn't cover everything. It's the same with title insurance. And as with any insurance policies, there are things that it covers and things that it doesn't cover, and conditions under which certain things are covered and not covered. So when a lawyer tells your client it covers everything, that is absolutely untrue, and that is, quite frankly, dangerous. Lawyers should not be saying that. And we know the majority of lawyers don't say that, and there isn't time to explain it because it's such a complicated issue, and the lawyers are doing what they need to do to protect that policy as the client moves in and takes ownership of the home. Now, how do we get to this point? How do we get here? And what I want to get through to you today, if I can do a good enough job at explaining this, is I want you to leave today with an understanding of how the real estate transaction changed with the advent and the introduction of title insurance. Because I think if you start getting an understanding of that foundational change in process, the light bulbs will start going on for you, and you'll start being able to connect the dots and understand how things are going. So where things actually, how things have ended up where they are today. So let's go back. Many of you who I've met, I know many of you who I've seen online so far in the chat, many of you I know practiced real estate before title insurance came in, right? A lot of you did. And those of you who did will remember the amount of work that the lawyer used to do prior to closing to assure good title. The lawyer, you always had to get a survey plan, by the way. You always had to get a survey plan. The lawyer did full 40 years title research, title search, and off-title search to make sure that there were no outstanding permits or warrants or anything else like that. They also looked to see if there were any taxes outstanding, all kinds of things they did. And the reason for this is that the lender had to be assured that the purchase price that was being suggested, that was being paid for, was actually the fair market value of that property, and that there wasn't something that was going to come up after the fact to diminish, to lower the value of the property. Because understand this, title insurance is about the lender, primarily about the lender. It's not a bad thing, but that's what it's about. So understand this, the lender is most concerned about their loan to value ratio. If you're buying a home for $1 million and you're asking the lender to lend 80% of that, you're going to put 20% down, and the lender is going to contribute $800,000 of that as a mortgage. What that means is that the lender has to ensure that that $1 million, the $1 million valuation, is actually accurate. Because if it then turns out after the fact that the property, there's something wrong with the property, that means it's actually, that results in the property being worth $900,000 or $800,000 or God forbid less, the lender's loan to value ratio is out of whack, and they get really, really twitchy about that. Before title insurance came in, the lawyer's job was primarily to assure clean title. Clean title meaning that there was nothing that was going to come up after the fact that they could figure out, that they could find, that was going to challenge the value of the property that was being paid. That was the job of the lawyer prior. That's why all the work happened before. It was the lawyer's job to do that. Good morning from Walkerton, fantastic, and from Hamilton, and Aurelia, terrific. That was the job of the lawyer beforehand. Title insurance came in, 4 title insurance companies from the US, and then Canada came up, LawPro came up from the Law Society of Canada and said, look, hang on a second. We've got an alternate way that we can do this. Instead of doing all that work up front every single time, why don't we say don't do any of that work? And instead, we will offer an insurance policy that instead of assuring good title prior to close, insures bad title or title defects after the fact. That is the crux of it. We had pre-title insurance. Our system assured good title. And lawyers had to do the hard work of making sure that that $1 million price tag, that was the value of the home, and that something wasn't going to come up and diminish that. Title insurance comes in, and ever since then, the whole process, the whole system has been rigged around and created around ensuring title defects and bad title after the fact. That's what the lawyer's job is now. It's not to do the research. It's to make sure that the insurance policy is in place with all associated documents so that once your client moves in and something comes up that should be covered by title, is covered by title insurance, that everything's in place so that the client can get the best outcome. Does that make sense? That is the foundational piece of information that, for me, that's when the big light bulb went on for me. I'm like, oh, I get it. I'm expecting lawyers to do what they used to do, but that's not how the system works anymore. They're actually just doing their job, and they're doing a really good job of it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it works for everyone, right? Look at my notes. Hang on a second. Where are we? So what has this system meant? It's meant that there's a ton of great benefit. The lender, who is the primary beneficiary of title insurance, one would suggest, the lender now, instead of relying on a lawyer's opinion, well, the lawyer might get it wrong, they might miss something. Now there's an insurance policy that covers them. Their risk is managed better. The lawyer's risk is managed better because they don't have to do as much, but they are covered by the title insurance policy as well. And the homeowner is covered. My goodness, the coverage the title insurance offers is spectacular. It's fantastic what it covers. It's really, really good. It also has facilitated faster closings because you don't need all that work done up front. Faster closings and cheaper closings as well. There isn't as much expense. So let's have a look at some other things here. So, and this is where the rub comes in. This is the rub here. How many times, this is all well and good, right? Sounds fabulous. We've got an insurance policy, it covers everything. It's not always that simple and that easy. So here's what we see. How many times, I'll ask you, how many times have you heard of people getting title insurance, not doing any due diligence up front, right? No boundary due diligence, no off-title due diligence, nothing. Just going with the home, and the lawyer says title insurance gets purchased. And then after the fact, a claim is made for some reason, and your client is not satisfied with the result. Either they didn't get the compensation or the fix that they wanted from the title insurer, or they found out that this issue that actually did come up is not covered by title insurance at all. And your client is left basically holding the bag for an issue that they didn't want in the first place. And had they known about this issue before closing and known that title insurance wouldn't have covered it, they may have not gone with this property. Who do you think they call then? Well, they put a call into the lawyer, but then they come after you sometimes because you're the folks that were supposed to, at the outset, help them find that property that was not going to have the issues, right? Now, why does this happen? I mean, the client often says, right, but the lawyer said it would cover everything. And it hasn't covered the one thing that happened to me. I wouldn't have gone with this property. Why does this happen? It doesn't happen because title insurance is bad or they're somehow dodging their responsibilities. No, they do a phenomenal job of meeting their responsibilities that are within the policy. And it's not because the lawyer is doing a bad job. The lawyer is doing their job at the time to make sure that that insurance policy is in place. It's because we, and I say we as the real estate community, real estate agents and brokers, although I'm not one, sorry, I'm on the survey side, but it's because we, the royal we, really have never had an opportunity to learn and understand what it covers, what it doesn't cover, and what kind of situations one needs to have those conversations with one's client in order to make sure that the client's needs and desires and risks are covered and mitigated. That's what this boils down to. So we believe, Protect Your Boundaries in the BoundaryWise Academy, I'd like you to really think about this. We believe that title insurance is not a replacement for good due diligence. It isn't, we used to do good diligence, we're doing none of that anymore, and that because now we've got this insurance, this magical insurance policy that covers absolutely everything. That's not how it works. Title insurance does not replace good due diligence. We believe that title insurance is an excellent safety net underneath your client, that sits underneath your client in spite of the good due diligence that you may have done. It's there to protect them for things that you didn't find out when you did your research, that slipped through the cracks. It's not a replacement for good due diligence. If you throw out all due diligence, like we have been doing for the last 25 years or so, if you throw out all due diligence, you end up with the situation we're in right now, and that's many homeowners ending up making title insurance claims and realizing way too late that their coverage doesn't cover, never did cover these issues. And in this is your opportunity. Title insurance is not boundary insurance. Title insurance does not replace due diligence. So what does that mean to you? This means that you, the real estate professional, the top tier of real estate professionals, I'm not talking about the 80,000 out there who, well, let's not go there. We're talking about the 10,000, you guys who are on here with me right now, spending your downtime learning something. It means that you have an opportunity to say, well, how can I add value? How can I use this situation to create value for my client when I have access to their client and I have their ear? So here's how you add value. If you understand what it covers and what it doesn't cover, and there's a finite list of things that it covers, and there is a very clear list of what it doesn't cover. And by the way, what's easy about this is that all 5 title insurance pretty much have exactly the same policies. Their coverage is the same. And what they exclude is pretty much the same. If you take the time to understand exactly what it covers and what it doesn't cover and translate those things, those coverages into real life situations that you come up with, if you do this, then what you can do is you can add unbelievable value, tremendous value to your clients in the search and bid phase. Critical. I know some of you are going, what? How am I going to do that? It's actually really important to consider this. It used to be pre-title insurance that the lawyer would do all this work. You'd find the property for the client, they'd fall in love with it, and then the lawyer would make sure that everything's good from a title standpoint. They don't do that anymore. So why don't you take elements of this? You don't have to be a legal professional or a lawyer, but why don't you take elements of this and pull it all the way forward into the search and bid phase, and add that as part of your value. You can help your clients mitigate the risk of buying a property that financially sinks them. We have all kinds of stories of people who moved into a home. They trusted this magical unicorn process of this insurance policy that apparently covers everything. An issue comes up, isn't covered by title insurance, and bankrupts them because they now have to pay to deal with it. And there are so many intricacies. I see a lot of people on with us here who've taken the course, who understand and know what it covers and doesn't cover. And I'm sure they're sitting there going, yeah, you know what? I had no idea about this stuff and the kind of value that it actually adds. Title insurance doesn't cover everything. If you know what it covers and what it doesn't cover, you can help your client. You can have that discussion with your client. You can educate your client at a very high level of what this thing is that they're going to be signing, and make some decisions up front to make sure that their needs are actually met. And I always talk about the young couple, the mysterious or the mythical young couple, right, who have been living in their parents' basement. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. They've been scratching and saving up their deposit for their first home. And they finally buy that. They finally have enough. They buy that first home. But they know, and you know, because you've asked all the right questions, because you're on this webinar, and it means you are asking these kind of questions. You know that their monthly cash flow cannot sustain any kind of pressure, any kind of additional pressure. So if they move in and their neighbor comes and sues them for something, or says, get the fence or the shed or whatever it is off my property, they do not have the cash flow or the means to be able to deal with that. So they have asked you, please make sure you find us a house that isn't going to have these problems. Please, that is not a place for you to say, don't worry about it. Your title insurance policy will handle everything. That is unprofessional. Or let's put it this way. You've missed an opportunity to make sure that your client is protected in the way that they're trusting you. Remember something. I know this is controversial. You charge 5% of the deal. On $1 million property, you make 5%. The lawyer makes $1,200. There is a vast disparity in income and revenue that's generated through here. You, because of, maybe this is unfair, but because of the perception that you're all making out like bandits on the deal, and I know it's not true. I know how the fees get structured and what it costs you to run your business and what you actually end up with and how much risk you take. I know all of that, but I'm talking about the perception that's out there. The perception is that you're making out like bandits, and you better make sure that I, as your client, am getting everything I want and then some, right? We know this to be true. This is a surefire way of adding that kind of value and protecting the client. So let's move on to 3 examples here, and we're almost done. What time is it? 10:28. Yeah, we're almost done. So example 1. Now, the reason I'm going to give you these 4 examples is because I want you to be honest with yourselves and ask yourselves if you know the answer to these questions. They're all yes, no. If you know all the answers here, every single answer, you don't need the BoundaryWise Academy. You don't need this knowledge. If you're sitting there going, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. If that's your answer, please come over to the BoundaryWise Academy, get through the courses, get credentialed, and get a hold of this knowledge and start adding that value. I know I'm pitching, but I feel passionate about this. I spent the last 6 years, my team has spent the last year trying to figure this out and get this information to you in a way that you can use it. So, example number 1. You suspect, it's just a suspicion, you suspect. By the way, you're on the buying side here. You're on the buying side evaluating a property with and for your client. You suspect that the property's pool is encroaching on the neighbor's yard. Is that covered by title insurance or not? Yes or no? Number 2, the other way around. Your client's property that they're about to buy doesn't have a pool, but you suspect that the neighbor's pool is encroaching on their property. Is that covered by their title insurance policy or not? Yes or no? Number 3, you suspect that the fence between your client's property they're about to buy and the next door property is actually a foot or a foot and a half inside your client's property. Is that going to be covered by title insurance? Yes or no? And finally, you suspect that the finished basement in the property that, Nathan, yeah, you know this already, right? You suspect that the basement, the finished basement in the property your client is about to buy wasn't done to code or doesn't have the right permits or sign-offs. Is that covered by title insurance? So ask yourselves, are those, we'll cover those in a later video, okay? I'll let you know. But for now, let those questions sit with you and really ask yourself, because these are situations that happen all the time. Wouldn't it be great to know the answer to this? And if you knew the answer, imagine the conversation you can have with your client about this kind of issue and whether or not you should look into it, because you do not want your client, or your client may not want, to end up having to trust an insurance policy that you know pretty certainly isn't going to cover this issue. Maybe you need to know it up front and move on to another property. And that's the key here. That's the key. Do we move on because we know that insurance isn't going to cover this? Simple as that. So, last point, and I'll let you go. I know you have busy things to do today. Last point. Please remember that you, by virtue of the fact that you are on this webinar with us, that you're spending half an hour with us today, you are in the top 5 to 10% of this industry. You represent a level of professional because you're using your downtime or a portion of it, not to sit in front of Netflix and binge on something, but actually learn something. Good for you. Well done. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. Turning a blind eye is unprofessional. Turning a blind eye is going to get you into trouble. And when you say, hey, we don't want to look at anything or a survey or do any kind of boundary due diligence because title insurance will cover it, you know damn well that's not true, or not always true, and not that definitive. And if you do go down that path, you're turning a blind eye. Now, there are some cases where that is the appropriate strategy, and that is a decision you make with your client in consult with your broker who will help advise you on brokerage policy. It's one thing to do it strategically. It's another thing to do it as willful blindness. That's the legal term for it, willful blindness. So please do not turn a blind eye anymore to this stuff. Join the academy, learn how to embed this in your process, these conversations in your process, and add some unbelievable value. So let's finish up with a quick overview of the BoundaryWise Academy. 8 to 10 hours of online video-based learning. You get to see me for 8 to 10 hours. That might turn all of you off and not want to do it. I hope not, because the knowledge is actually good. It's all online. It's about 8 to 10 hours of it. Quizzes, exams. It's tough. As all the folks who are online right now with us will tell you, it's not easy. You got to get 80% to pass. This is not RICO. This is tough. This is intended to eliminate or I don't want to say discriminate, but to not allow the masses to get. It's tough because we want this to be something that the top 5 or 10% of your industry actually gets and promotes. Our goal is to help you get more leads, close more listings, and put back pressure on the downward pressure that's happening on your commission structure right now. This is one of the tools that you can use to really prove the kind of value and your worth and your price to your clients. You get the CBW designation, Certified BoundaryWise. It's a professional designation you get. You get a free year of support. And we got a couple of emails saying, well, great, I expect support as I'm going through the program. No, that's not what we mean. What we mean is that once you've graduated, you can call us or email us on a Saturday in a listing presentation at an open house. When a question comes up and you don't know the answer, you can email us or text us. You can call us. I get phone calls from you guys, and we'll help you out. That's the kind of hotline support. We're there to back you up. Finally, the cost is $350. If you use the code, the discount code BW Series, and Jess is going to put it up on the screen here in the chat, BW Series, that gives you $50 off. Guys, there's about, I think, 300 or 400 of you on here right now. I'll be really disappointed if we don't get more than 50 of you on. Please, if you think this is important, come over to boundarywise.ca, sign up, and let's go for it, okay? Now, enough of that. Let's go to some questions here. Let's see what we've got. Oh, Nathan says, guys, the course is very good as a realtor, homeowner, and landowner. Okay, thank you, Nathan. Fantastic. Dan has asked, can title insurance be purchased for properties located in unincorporated townships? Well, I wish I would read these questions to find out whether I know the answer before I actually say it out loud. I don't know. I'm going to have to find out. Here's the good news for you. When I don't know the answer to a question, I go and speak to the experts that have helped me learn this stuff. The folks at the surveyors at Kirschmark Surveyors and folks at title insurance companies. That's one I'm going to answer in a video later on, okay? Let's see, Stephen, does title insurance cover lack of building permit compliance? Okay, I'm going to say yes, but there's a caveat there. One of the inclusions in title insurance is that it covers. Gosh, I can't remember the exact wording, but if you purchase a property and then the city comes after you because that property didn't have the right building permits or whatever, and you didn't know about it beforehand, that is something that is in the area of coverage. But you can't have known it before, not known about it before, okay? That kind of speaks to the basement example that we had. However, what it doesn't cover is your ability to change the nature of the land, or if you purchase a property and then decide to go in for permits to do something with it, the city denies. That is not covered. It doesn't cover anything you do afterwards. It covers what you inherit. If what you inherit somehow diminishes, according to the title insurer's definition, diminishes the value of the property. I hope that that answers that. Let's see what else. Okay, there are a few more here. What we're going to do is we're going to answer the rest in a video. Hope that was of value to you guys. It's a huge topic. It's an absolute huge topic. What's covered, what's not covered, all that thing. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do for the free version. And if you want to come in and get more, you can do that on the Academy, and we can go from there. So have a safe and great day, everyone. And hopefully we'll see you again next week for the next topic. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.